Recorded Books and RB Digital present Becoming George Orwell by John Rodden, narrated by Richard Poe. Prologue. Donald and Winston at the Ministry of Alternative Facts. Big Brother, welcome to Broadway. It was a bright, cold day in January, and the keyboards were clicking dollar signs. In a deliciously fitting historical irony, the first full day in office of the new American president, Donald Trump, commenced on January 21st, 2017, the 67th anniversary of George Orwell's death. Just as Orwell's grim novel of a dystopian future, 1984, began its ascent once again to number 1 on the bestseller list. Such is Cleo's caprice. In hindsight, the Orwellian countdown to Inauguration Day started even before Election Day on November 8th. Trump's startling victory triggered an unexpected explosion of popular interest in the novel, however, as sales of the Signet paperback edition jumped tenfold in the next 6 weeks. On the eve of the inauguration, the book hovered between number 5 and number 7 on the Amazon.com bestseller list. Following the inauguration, a series of controversial public statements by senior officials in the new administration catapulted it to number 2, and by the morning of January 25th, it stood at number 1. Fast forward 6 months. Welcome, Big Brother, to Broadway. Opening on June 22nd as the first major entry of the 2017-18 Broadway season, a British production of 1984 was staged at the newly refurbished Hudson Theatre. Jointly arranged by London producer Sonia Friedman and New York producer Scott Rudin, this stage version had been mounted in London in 2013-14 and has most recently starred Andrew Gower as Winston Smith. Co-created by writer-directors Robert Icke and Duncan Macmillan, 1984 had toured to sold-out houses and rave reviews throughout England. The production had featured a giant video wall from which Big Brother looked down on his party members to make sure no one was committing thought crimes. Critics hailed the lighting, sound, and video design as a provocative assault on the mind and senses, like a trip to Room 101, and compared the production to movies by Stanley Kubrick and David Lynch. The London production was performed for a few regional American audiences in 2016, most notably at the American Repertory Theatre in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and at the Shakespeare Theatre in Washington, D.C. The Broadway show featured an all-American cast. The Broadway staging of 1984 succeeded months-long efforts to satirize and protest the policies of Trump and his administration. For example, on April 4th, the date on which the fateful events that open Orwell's novel occur, a Hollywood-based political advocacy group dubbing itself the United States of Cinema arranged the return screening of Michael Radford's film adaptation in American theaters. Originally released in 1984 and starring John Hurt as Winston and Richard Burton as O'Brien, in Sir Richard's last film appearance before his death, 160 art house movie theaters across the country in 148 cities and 42 states, plus 5 locations in Canada and 1 in England, screened 1984 as part of a larger political campaign against the decision by the Trump administration to cut funding from artist grant programs, including the National Endowment for the Arts, the National Endowment for the Humanities, and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. The Oprah of the Oval Office, or double plus good dystopianism? How did all this come to be? Several related news events that exemplified what has come to be known as the post-factual world account for the meteoric rise and final breakthrough of 1984 to the top of the bestseller lists in January 2017. Within hours of Trump's swearing in, White House Press Secretary Sean
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.